Welcome back to the Square. Today we're discussing the aftermath of the Nigeria elections, which saw the APC's Bola Ahmed Tinubu win the presidential race. Still with me is Olakunle Olumide Olabinjo. He's a legal practitioner based here in Lagos, Nigeria. And then we're now joined by Achike Chude. He's a global affairs analyst, also based in Lagos, Nigeria. Achike, thank you so much for your time. Olakunle, thank you for your patience here on the program. But let's start off with Achike now. Achike, we've been doing a lot of analysis into the numbers, but if you look at the numbers you've seen so far, what would you say is responsible for the low voter turnout?
Sorry, what's the question again? I missed it.
Indeed. I'm asking, if you look at the numbers so far, what would you say is responsible for the low voter turnout?
I think we expected more in terms of numbers, but I want to believe that we had enough enthusiasm for this election. We saw very large crowds during the election, during the campaigns for the election, but I'm also aware that large crowds do not automatically translate into voting crowds. But regardless of that, for an election that was badly run, that was badly organized, that was badly executed. If you want to begin to allocate blame for the low turnout, first of all, I think we should blame the bad organization of that election. Because there were very serious logistical challenges that impacted heavily on the people, on the turnout of people, and those who eventually voted. I mean, when you have, if we had a uniform, maybe on an average, if we had maybe INEC officials nationwide on an average turning up to the polling booth maybe about 9:30 or starting accreditation, the accreditation process from 9:30. That is 1 hour behind time. Then I believe that would have had a much larger turnout. But in few places you had the INEC officials, well, not to few places, but we had them turn up in some places, and then in many other places they didn't turn up at, a reasonable time. Some of them got to the polling booths, polling units around 11. We even had many instances of INEC officials turning up around 4, 5 in the evening. So when you talk about voter, suppression, when you talk about voter disenchantment, that is also responsible, because voters who waited till 2 p.m., for instance, in the afternoon, some never came back. Some went and some came back. So when we say that, yes, we are talking about 25% turnout for the election, which is the lowest so far I think this country has experienced, embarrassingly, really, because we thought to be seeing something of about maybe around 40 million, 45 million. But when it is badly organized like this, people were frustrated in the process. The insecurity issue became another issue that kept people in their homes. Then you could say that perhaps we lost an extra 15 million voters because of the bad organization and because of the insecurity that took place. In places that should have been more prone to security breaches. You're talking about Southeast. Southeast, apart from a few places, local governments, especially in Imo State, that did not have the elections conducted in those places for security reasons. But in other parts of Southeast, unprecedented number of voters were voted, and then an unprecedented number of voters were not allowed to vote because of the administrative hitches caused by INEC's inefficiency. So, also,
again, would you expect INEC to address some of these issues that have come up out of the elections going forward?
Well, obviously, there are just two ways of looking at it. The issue of logistical challenges is something that I think INEC can address better, because the reasons are known. What's the major logistic is transportation. You transport men, you transport materials. So that's the first one, So if they can get it better and find out what happened while at that level failed woefully, and then try to see how they can improve on it, then I think they might succeed in improving on the logistics. Then the other one was beavers. And for me, the way I have looked at the whole thing concerning the beavers is that there was man-made disturbance with the beavers. That is why the beavers did not work. It is not because the beavers failed, but man that controls beavers, ensured that the beavers did not work for political expediency. So obviously, lightning does not strike twice, or they say it shouldn't strike twice. So the fact that they have used it, some people used it for certain nefarious purposes for the presidential election, I think it will be ultimately a very stupid gamble for them to do the same thing again. So this time around, I have a feeling that the beavers will work. Then, if the beavers does work, will their worst nightmare come true in terms of, in terms of, okay, how else do they control the voting on election day? Using talks once more, using violence once more. Because what happened in the last election was a combination of, a logistic failure, which impacted negatively on voter participation, and then the issue of beavers, which also impacted negatively on voter participation because their votes, did not count the way it should have counted. Because once those votes that were undertaken at the polling units left the polling units without the upload, then any other thing could have happened. And I think something happened. And that's why there's so much discrepancy from what we are hearing all over the place. Between what was declared at the polling unit and what the RF, for those ones that are downloaded, is showing to a lot of materials.
Well, so right now, the onus is on the opponent candidate, the opponent candidates, right? The opposing candidates to decide to go to court and have this looked at. But on the other hand, are people who are very, again, impassioned about how things have gone because they went through the process and experienced the things that you're talking about. Yet a winner was announced despite all the irregularities that have been brought to the fore. And so let's talk about post-election crisis management. What should Nigeria be doing right now so that the issue does not degenerate? Rather, it goes through the formal processes to come to a head. Achike, that's for you.
What has happened is like, a thief. Yes, I know. What has happened, the way I perceive it, is that of a landlord that gets into his house through the back door or through the window and not through the front door because he has done something he should not have done. Look, legitimacy issues with dog this administration. There are no two ways about it. You can see what has happened. There's no celebration on the streets any part of this country. It's like things are moving on normally. Even if tomorrow they now organize celebratory rallies and procession. The issue is that this declaration, this election has taken the shine off whatever celebration you're going to have, because the last election, for instance, in 2019, they won in 2015, especially 2015, 2011. There was spontaneous joy, on the streets of Nigeria, spontaneously, because an election had taken place, somebody had won, somebody had lost. People were elated, and so that's what you need to see. You want to see. We also wanted to see something like this, but because of the nature of this election, you can see there is this massive disbelief, this massive feeling of we have been hurt, we have been raped, our democracy has suffered. Anyway you look at it, those who want to rejoice about winning this election, let them rejoice. But there are questions to be asked, and people are asking this question. Civil society organizations are asking this question. International, observer groups are asking these questions. I am an observer, and I know what was observed on the field and what is going on, what had happened. So and that's why it's going to be a problem for this government. They cannot walk the streets or conduct their affairs as a government holding their heads high. So what they now have to do is how to begin to appeal to a lot of Nigerians who are so disappointed with the way this election went. No, Nigerians generally, ultimately, yes, they fight for this for this presidency was very bitter and long and acrimonious. But by the time somebody is elected as president, there's usually goodwill that tends, that person, because there's a hope that that he might begin to address some of the issues of this country. And when he does that, then Nigerians are going to, benefit from that process. But for this one, it's not. It's a problem. So they need to do so much. They need to get out of their way, go out of their way to try to convince Nigerians that they have a project for them that will work for the good of everybody. It is going to be very difficult because this issue of legitimacy will dog this administration for as long as possible. So what they do, to assuage Nigerians, what they do to convince Nigerians about where they intend to take the country, I think might go some way in trying to get frayed nerves, suited.
Well, Olakule, what do you think? The issue of legitimacy of the incoming administration and the post-election crisis management. How should we go about that?
My advice as a legal practitioner to anyone that is part of the legitimacy of the incoming government or the president-elect, I should just go to court and let the court address that and seek for the redress. So because it's a democracy, is a game of number, we have seen the number, and we have seen that someone or a candidate outnumbers the others. Regardless of what will have happened, and regardless of how it was being done in this area or the other, let's just have it for the spirit of unity, for the spirit of being a patriotic Nigeria. And as many that great contender in this particular presidential election, they should come together and just forge ahead. We cannot avoid to do one thing or the other to avoid, to avert state of anarchy and the violence which is characterized by post-election crisis. So to me, if we want to challenge the legitimacy of this, the court is there for us. The judiciary is there for us to interpret one particular section of the law, to interpret one particular section of the Electoral Act, to interpret what transmission or transfer means. The court is there to interpret all those things for us, and that is the beauty of the democracy. So I pray, and I'm looking forward that all the contenders should come together to just do this thing together, and let's have a good Nigeria for better tomorrow and for the next generation. Because anything that will cause post-election violence, it will be very, very dangerous for this particular country. With our population, we'll just be sitting on the gunpowder. So to me, let's come together in the spirit of patriotism and unity and unite this particular country together. Just as the president-elect have told us in his acceptance speech that we may, before the election, we may be at war. We are not enemy. Now we are friends. Whatsoever may be your reason of moving this particular country forward, let me hear you out. You also come into.
Very well. So what I want us to do now.
Let's do it.
Indeed.
Yes.
Achike, I'll give you the last word on this one. You spoke earlier about a few things that we could do, and it seemed that it is at the doorstep of the APC and the incoming administration. But I'm just wondering, what can the Buhari administration do within this period, as it's also going out, in order to make sure that there is some sort of meeting point in this?
I don't know. I don't know because this election was the very last throw of the dice for President Muhammadu Buhari. The very last act that would either put his name in the book of infamy or in the book of relatively good Nigerian leaders who tried their best, especially with regards to the transition, with regards to choosing a predecessor, after them. And I felt he had made a lot of commitments to international community. And the floor of the United Nations General Assembly, he promised the world he would conduct a good election. A good election would be conducted under him. And he told his peers in ECOWAS that he would do the same thing. And so I was thinking that in as much as he has failed, in my own assessment, in virtually every promise he made to Nigerians on the economy, rebuilding the economy, on reducing the issues of insecurity, to a barest minimum, and on the issue of corruption. I felt that having failed in those places, because he is somebody who keeps on talking about his legacy, I felt that this will be an opportunity for him to try to seek immortality by having a more positive, ensuring that Nigerians have a more positive attitude towards him.